Trails to Azure. Look at you, sitting there all smug, preening over the numerous improvements you've made to gameplay, story structure, music, quest design, world building, and the like in an already fantastic series of RPGs that, when all is said and done, will likely rank among my absolute favorite video game franchises. You think you're all that, don't you? And yeah, Trails to Azure, you're good. You're very good. But are you without fault? Are you above critique? Is there nothing you can improve on in the subsequent Cold Steel games and beyond? Do you think I can't come up with a list of, say, 10 hard-hitting criticisms to levy against your conclusion of the Crossbell arc? 'Cause I, totally can. Number 1. No Josette. I mean, she wasn't in the last game either, but at least that one had the decency to throw us the tiniest of bones with a little Kapua delivery service side quest. Does that make up for a lack of Josette? No. But it's better than nothing, which is what you gave us, Trails to Azure. Did you feature a handful of stunningly well-planned and realized side quests that brought back characters from the Sky Games in organic and entertaining ways, like Mr. Fisher showing up for the fishing tournament, or the wonderfully unexpected surprise of Ellie and Armand, those over-amorous putz muffins from Grand Cell visiting Crossbell and revealing that they were the estranged family of Representative Gable? Yes, you did bring back those characters, and had Josette been among them, you would have earned full points in this category, but, alas, you'll just have to settle for perfect -1. Number 2. Josette may be all that, but Lloyd sure ain't. So, why do so many of the major characters get all flustered around him or outright want to jump his bones? We know Kia hacked her bonding points. Did she futz with Lloyd's as well? Lloyd's a good dude, and sure, easy on the eyes, but the number of characters that are sweet on him is a bit much. Which is not to say that every character bitten by the Lovebug has their heart set on Lloyd's tight little tush. I was genuinely charmed by Southwark and Janetta's courtship. I was invested in Scott and Pearl's engagement. I was thoroughly amused by Luca's nearly complete lack of interest in Marlowe's advances. So, yes. While it would be nice to see more of the characters be romantically interested in people who are not the protagonist, at least the nearly dozen characters who are overtly affectionate toward Lloyd express that affection in radically different ways, from flirty teasing, to deep friendship, to adolescent crush, to outright romantic love. Smart writers know that variety is the spice of life, so if you insist on towing the anime trope waters of all the ladies have the hots for the oblivious boy, this is one way to keep it from immediately going stale. So, I'll give you a hand, Trails to Azure. Not in the way, say, Ilya, Shirley, and Mariabelle are inclined to give Ellie and Risha a hand. Or 2. The Trails games prove you have thoughtful and talented writers, so I have every confidence you'll learn that while the public grabbing of private bits can be funny, sexual assault and the normalization thereof isn't. Number 3. Not only is the SSS gifted an orbital car in which to cruise around Crossbell, or after a couple upgrades, sleep in to restore all of your vitals, including CP, we can also spend our hard-earned Mira on a variety of purely cosmetic upgrades, including a bevy of new paint jobs. Those paint jobs include Little E and Little T Paintworks, which plasters our ride with chibi versions of the original ladies of the SSS, and that is super awesome. But what about the rest of the SSS Trails to Azure? Where's my Chibi Lloyd and Chibi Randy paint jobs? Chibi Waji? You can't tell me a pupper paint job of Chibi Sight wouldn't be the Armorican bee's knees. Wanted to keep it ladies only? Phooey, I say. But even so, where's Chibi Noel? Chibi Kia? Okay, that might be too much cuteness. We'd never be able to pry Aeolia off our car. Look, I understand and begrudgingly accept there's no Chibi Josette because Gen 10 wants to sell a variety of paint jobs, and if she was on offer, they'd only ever sell one. But imagine their profits if they offered Chibi paint jobs for the rest of the SSS. And the Bracers, the cast of Arc-en-Ciel, St. Ursula's nurses. Money on the table, man. Number 4. I never minded Return of the King's multiple endings. I always felt that after 9 hours of awesome story, the movies had earned an extra 30 minutes to give all the characters we've grown to love a proper goodbye. So, after 450 hours across the 2 Crossbell games, I was more than ready to sit through a proportionally lengthy ending. Well, consider my expectations subverted, Trails to Azure, because you wrap it up in about 5 minutes. I thought there was going to be this tense action sequence as our heroes frantically pilot the Merkaba away from the collapsing Azure tree like the Millennium Falcon escaping the second Death Star as it explodes. No! They just get in their ship and leave. The tree doesn't explode or even dramatically collapse. It just gently fizzles out of existence like an antacid dissolving in a glass of water. Then a short narration from Lloyd informs us everyone went their separate ways. Oh, and Osborne's faction won the Erebonian Civil War. Spoilers? Okay, it's not like it's terribly surprising that the antagonist you've built up over the past 5 games ends up in a position of power that makes our protagonists' lives difficult, and while I would have preferred them beans to have remained unspilt, it does lead to a beautifully bittersweet credit sequence that plays over evocative still-shot vignettes of our heroes doing all they can to resist the subsequent Imperial occupation of Crossbell, effectively dramatizing Lloyd and friends accepting and embracing the consequences of their actions. They could have walked away. They knew doing the right thing would have negative consequences. They did it anyway. A difficult choice because those consequences weren't just theirs, they're Crossbell's too, which is unfair. It's not anything the citizens asked for or agreed to. But our heroes are clearly taking responsibility and doing what they can to make everything right. For everyone. And it looks like they succeeded and no one died. Spoilers! Number 5. You've used pre-rendered sprites since Sky FC for the characters that populate Zemuria. They're undoubtedly adorable, and your exceptionally smart use of blocking, camera choreography, and sound effects to support the relatively limited number of poses each sprite can utilize makes for genuinely engaging scenes. It's a masterclass in working within limited resources to create something great. That said, the Chibi Sprites are not without their drawbacks. For example, it's nigh impossible to tell how old many of the characters are supposed to be because there are essentially 3 types of character models. Generically old, generically young, and generically somewhere between the two. Old people? Doesn't matter. Old Man Moores, Old Lady Bilma, this guy on the bench, they're old. Whether they're 60 or 70 or even older really doesn't change anything. Same with adults for the most part. But when you're talking about kids, yeah, a few years makes a difference. Characters like Colin and Shizuku have character portraits, which makes it easier to narrow down their age range, but how old are Ryu and Henri? Or Momo? They play tag in the street, so likely pretty young, but how old is Jingo? I thought she was the same age until she was featured in a voiced cutscene and she sounded like a teenager, which makes me feel a bit better about Ashley having her work the counter, but admittedly makes her mouthy attitude a bit less funny. And then someone told me she's canonically 10, so... And how about Ian's young assistant Pete? Is he 10? Do we have to worry about child labor law violations, or is he in his late teens working an internship? Kinda important. I'd hate to think Ian Grimwood was a bad guy. And these kids, one is nearly always locked out of his house while his drunk father sleeps off his hangover. Tragic regardless, but the strength of my feelings on the matter is going to vary on precisely how old these kids are. Is Alec old enough to be trusted not to fall to his death? Hamel and Tamil keep flipping up Sister Juju's skirt. They're like super young children, right? Like 6 and not 16, right? I don't know how I should feel, Trails to Azure. You're seriously stressing me out. Number 6. Your Chibi Sprites suffer from another limitation, Trails to Azure. Crossbell has like 300 NPCs, and while an impressive number are unique, many share the same sprite. This can lead to the player being uncertain which NPC they're looking at without walking over and chatting them up to see which name displays in the dialog box. You smartly handle this by ensuring that characters utilizing non-unique sprites generally stick to the same area or hang out with the same people. This is Kuna. How do I know that's Kuna and not an NPC who uses the exact same character sprite like Cindy or Lena Lee? Because Kuna's in the Harbor District, Cindy is in the residential district house neighboring the Hayworths, and Lena Lee hangs out in Central Square with Pruna in front of the Times department store. But what about Ryu and Henri? They don't have unique character sprites and can often be found in different areas. Well, if I see, for example, Henri's character sprite in the home I know he lives in, I can be reasonably certain it's him. And when he's outside, he's almost assuredly with Ryu, so if I see this combination of these non-unique character sprites, I can be reasonably certain it's them. Would unique character sprites for every single NPC be ideal? Yes. Does Josette have a unique character sprite? Yes. Does it therefore follow that Josette is ideal? Number 7. One of my criticisms of Trails in the Sky SC was it reused the same locations from the previous game, and you, Trails to Azure, suffer the same drawback. Understandable though it may be, since you both occupy the same physical space as your predecessor, nonetheless, the joy of discovery in the first titles is unavoidably missing in their follow-ups. That said, Sky SC managed a few new areas with a prologue set in Lamont State, previously unexplored locations like the Elmo Village Fountainhead and Ouroboros' Lakeside Laboratory, in addition to new areas such as the Glorious and the Librarch. You seemingly recognized that drawback and did even more to lay the groundwork for unique gameplay areas so players were treated to more new places to discover and explore, such as the Wetlands, the Boathouse, Geofront C and D, in addition to their well-disguised entrances, Orcus Tower, Michelin Wonderland, Knox Forest, which includes the Police Academy and the CGF training grounds, the West Crossbell Highway train tracks and the Bellegarde Gate train platform, and a quick jaunt to Altair during the prologue. For a sequel set in the same place as the previous game, you certainly pulled out a bunch of stops to ensure picky little gamers like me had a bunch of shiny new locations to delight in. Number 8. Early on in the first Crossbell game, I went to visit nearby Armorica Village, and on the way I spied a lighthouse off the side of the road. Ooh, intriguing. What's inside? What adventures await? What secrets does it hold? Who knows? It never amounted to anything, and we never got to go inside. And that sucks. There's a door. I want in. It's why I complained all throughout the Sky games that I couldn't get into any of the linen closets. And here we have the Crossbell games that think they can make it up to me with the eventual access into the largest, most luxurious linen closet in all of Zemuria. And then feature multiple incredible teases and payoffs, such as eventually allowing me downstairs in Jingo and Ashley's store, in the guest rooms at St. Ursula, Bacchus's room in Lotus Heights, all of Michelin Wonderland with its rideable attractions, and the Police Academy, its prison, and the CGF's training ground, on top of a few that I didn't even expect, like entry into this house in the residential district, and access to the area behind the counters in the Times department store. And that's not even a comprehensive list of such locations. Truly, Trails to Azure, you excel at making the most of your reused map, ensuring there are frequent surprises and new places to explore. Unless we wanted to explore the lighthouse, or the ICU, or upstairs at Imelda's. What are you doing, Azure? Why are you holding out? Are you saving potential explorable areas for possible revisits in future games? Oh, that's not a bad idea. Number 9. Who, in the 7th plane of Phantasma, is Yuna? She has a profile picture. She must be important, right? But portrait be damned, she has absolutely no role in the story. She's just the gal by the police academy vending machines. And friend of Lloyd's. Well, so is Wendy, and she doesn't have a profile pic, neither does Oscar. Maybe Yuna will be important later. Probably much later. She's almost certainly not going to show up in Cold Steel 1 or 2 because we know she's in Crossbell during the events of those games. So, if she makes her grand appearance in Cold Steel 3 500 gameplay hours from now, the impact is going to be lessened because you can't expect me to remember some random pink-haired character with an affinity for vending machines. What? Trails to Azure? You think just because she's unique among Trails NPCs and that she has a profile portrait for no discernible reason she'll take up permanent residence in my head for the next couple of years as I obsess over who she is, guaranteeing I will remember her and be super excited to finally have the answer when she eventually does show up and have some bearing on the plot? 'Cause that will work. Number 10. Da music. Your music, Trails to Azure, like Josette, is too good. It started good in Sky First Chapter, and it just kept getting better. And here we are. You're the 5th game in the series, and you're sporting a soundtrack featuring such a plethora of stunningly good tunes that they drag out my already long Sunday streams by forcing me to stop playing the game and focus my attention on tracks with complex, thoughtfully composed, and super catchy melodies, harmonies that enhance the emotions and themes of the various scenes, and even a variety of leitmotif with multiple variations for different circumstances. It takes me about 9 months to get through each of these games. I don't have time to delight over the clever integration of bells in the instrumental soundscape, or admire the bold and terrifically effective decision to combine chamber choir vocal sections with metal guitar riffs. Am I saying the music should be worse? No. The music is great, and we deserve great things, so future titles should have more great music. And Josette.